So as I stated, I'm going to make a new plate to mount the switch in the paint shaker. This is the new switch, and on the photos I found of the original ones, there was a metal plate that went around this that bolted in there and there, so there's a bigger metal plate. So the switch mounts in the plate bolts into the shaker. Before I disable the shaker, I thought I'd shake up the primer. I'll prime the plate and shake this up pretty good, and that way I just need to give it a quick rattle when I go to use it. So this one says turn past 10 then turn back, and I'll turn it back to about 4 minutes. Generally that's enough to shake those up. So alright, I'll let that shake. I'll shake this and then we'll move on. Just give you an idea, this brand new can, the balls, you could do this and the balls wouldn't even shake. I shook it by hand. You couldn't hear the balls rattling it. 5 minutes in that, yeah, they rattle nicely the full length. So they say to shake these for 2 minutes vigorously before using them. Well, that just got 5 minutes. And I'll give it a hand shake, obviously, when I have the switch out before I paint this. Unless the switch is still in and I go to paint that metal bracket, I'll throw it back in the shaker. But I wanted to shake it just in case if I have the shaker disabled, and I put this one in it too for 5 minutes. So yeah, the shaker's kind of nice for these rattle cans. You know, your arm can get sore shaking these for a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. So that is a great help, especially ones like this that are new, that the balls are, you know, stuck in the stuff that settled to the bottom. So there we go. The template states it mounts through a 2 19/32 diameter hole in the panel. So I got my steel rule and I actually measured the switch, and it's 1/32 shy, so it's obviously giving you a little bit of room to, you know, 1/64 of an inch all the way around to so I had this at 17 or 18 there. It's 19 right there. 2 19/32, and I'll set this to that dimension. That looks pretty good. Now I don't have a pad under here, so maybe I'll use this cardboard. I'm eventually going to make it probably out of cardboard. It doesn't matter. Paper, you just need something that you can trace onto your sheet metal. So paper, cardboard, whatever your fancy is. Well, that's obviously twice as big, but that might be what I need on the shaker. I should have made that half the distance to get the distance I need, I do believe. Yeah, that doesn't something's not looking right here, but that's the way this will go in there. Maybe I'll just trace this out and use that as my main hole. I'll you know, I got to drill a couple bolt holes, so I'm gonna call that good there. Did a little math, came up with the correct dimensions, so you know I could get that centered in that hole where I originally picked this thing through, and that is right on center. I'm going to take the cover off the machine there and see if this outside diameter is large enough or too large, and we'll adjust it from there, and then I'll cut it out, and you know I can just rub on it for the bolt holes when I'm holding it up to the machine there. So let me get the other switch apart a little bit, which is really no big deal. Need to get something to undo that nut there, and we'll get that thing off. So I did a little measuring on the machine, and I don't need it that big around. So let's just shrink it down here a little bit. So it's going to be cut out on this line and then cut that so the metal piece will be just this ring here, and then there will be a couple of you know, I'll figure out where they go, a bolt hole on each side to hold it to the machine. And another thing, I'm going to probably repurpose this. So if you notice, this has a hold, this Dayton 60-minute timer. And one thing I have in my garage that I use often is this ventilator. And this is the switch to it. And sometimes I want to, like I come in with the car hot in the summertime, you know, after out cruising, and I want to turn that on because the heat from the engine goes up and it'll take it out of the garage and help keep the garage cooler. And sometimes I want to just close up the garage and go in the house, and I switch this off so it's not left on overnight. It'd be nice to be able to have a timer where I can just turn that thing on for an hour or however long. So I think I'm going to repurpose the switch over there. Now you can see what I made here, and the switch will go through it, and then it'll have two 1/4 20 screws that hold this to the machine. And I'll make this out of metal, obviously, and I'll probably have to grind it and file it and, you know, horse with it a bit to get it to look good, but we'll get it looking good. So I'm gonna start figuring out how, you know, I'm gonna cut it with the plasma cutter to where I get a nice round cut. Obviously this paper is not going to work for a guide, and I'm certainly not going to use the switch for a guide. So I'll just hunt around and find something that this is I think actually it's 2 inches from center. So I'll find something that is looks like maybe 4 3/4 and 2 1/2. So let me hunt around and I'll find some things in those sizes that I can use, because you can get a really nice cut with the plasma cutter. If I have a guide, this is a raw cut from the plasma cutter, not filed or ground or anything. That's as cut with the plasma cutter. So it does cut nice. You can see a little bit of spatter on this side, but that'll just grind off with ease. But this is the metal I'm going to make the switch plate out of, and I think it'll look nice on there. That's where the switch will go on. You can see the two 1/4 20 bolt holes. These somebody drilled and tapped to put this switch in. Then they hogged this out just a little bit to fit this switch in. But that plate I'm making should cover all that, so it'll look nice once it's in there. So you can see the new wiring I put in. There's the new power cord comes in, the wire from the power cord and the wire to the motor, and the timer. And I'm going to stuff this wiring in here, just get it out of the way. And I put the timer in, just hold it in there just for the heck of it, and it just touches the motor before it's in all the way. Not very much gap though, so I think I'm going to have to use this thicker metal in order to keep that switch from hitting the motor. You know, that'll allow it to just sit out just a tad there, which is what it needs, and I think that'll be just fine. But that's the timer, and like I say, once this, so I gotta start my hunting. I just want to see it. I just like to test fit everything before I make it out of steel. So there you go. That's kind of, and that's why they look like on the internet with a metal plate there like that. So that's what this is going to have. And I'll touch up this black so none of it hangs beyond this. But that looks like the right dimensions. Looks all good for what I'm going to do. So all right, let me get it, find something, get it traced on steel and cut out. There's just something here I want to share. This is the battery to my GoPro. I have 3 of them, and I rotate them. But I don't know if you can see this or not. I'm going to try and hold it flat. I don't know if it shows up or not, but it's bulged out a little bit. here and here. Two of them, the one that's in the camera right now and this one, and they're not holding the charge as long as they used to. And again, I don't think that's gonna, bulge is gonna show up. But I ordered new batteries. They should be here in a couple of days. Throw your batteries out if they start bulging up. They can explode, you know, that's a sign of the battery. I don't know if that, I'm trying to show where it's bulged. It doesn't really show in the camera, but it shows really well just looking at it. And the one that's in the camera is worse. It barely fit in the camera. And it's going dead rapidly, and I don't know how much of a charge this one has, but hopefully enough to make all the video I need to for this. But I just kind of wanted to share that. If you have lithium ion batteries that are bulging up, throw them out. They will go off like fireworks and start a major fire. A friend of my dad's with model airplanes had a lithium battery go off and it burned his house down. So yeah, be careful with them. So I realized this mounting bracket has to go on too, and I was holding it up into the motor, and this bracket will make this switch even stick out a little further. So I made this out of a thicker cardboard, so when I put it in here I can see that that's pretty good. But if that bracket's on there, that's going to hit that motor and make this switch come out a little bit more. So I might use that cardboard as a gasket, or make a gasket for between the metal and the switch. But I'm first going to see if I have a thicker piece of steel that I could make that out of. I think the thicker the better. I don't want to make two of them out of here. That'd just be too much work. I'd rather just make one out of this and make a gasket out of something, you know. I could even use this, really, when it comes right down to it, use this cardboard, but you know, and paint this edge black so it looks nice. And it'll squish down too, you know, once you bolt it up. But I just don't want the back of the switch hitting the motor, because I'm sure that motor, it's bolted down firm, but it's still going to vibrate and move. Found one thing to trace from the spray can, but this lip is further out, so I'll just cut on the inside of the line, and then I'll just file it until the switch fits through, and then I'll look for something to measure this, you know, I can use the plasma cutter, you know, against, I don't think it'll, I'll see if I have a metal paint cap, maybe, you know. I don't want to cut on a spray can cut. That's just slightly too big too. That would probably work though. Maybe I'll just use this paint cap as a guide. And yeah, that one's too small. This one's just a tad bigger, so I'll just it'll be nice to have a little bit extra, and I'll cut it on an angle so that it doesn't take as much, but it can be a little bigger, it won't hurt. So that's my guide for the inner hole. Now I need something for a guide for the outer hole, so let me hunt around and see what I can find. And I decided to cut it out of this aluminum because it's a bit thicker. I just got the plasma cutter out and forgot about these. 805 Road King used these, and that's why I ended up getting these. He's one of the tubers I watch real regularly. He's got good videos out there. You should go check them out. But anyway, none of them have one that'll fit the timer, you know, just right. They're either too small or too big for this inside hole. So I'll use the paint cap for that as a guide, but I can definitely use this for the outside guide, and then cut half, whoops, bumping the camera there, and then cut the other half, and then I can, you know, sand and grind and file or whatever I need to make it, you know, the right exact. And I'll probably have to do this inside hole the same way, you know, so the timer drops through it nicely. So I think this is pretty much ready to cut out. I got these marked out, and I think I'll have lunch and then I'll cut it out. This is where these stencils came from, if you're interested. And you can get them in different shapes and sizes. Or these. There's those. They come in all kinds of different things, so yeah, it's kind of neat to have just for things like this. Might just easier to cut this freehand and then just grind it nice, because I'm going to have to grind out the inside. Just doing a final fit on the timer. I'm going to put a little gasket on it, and I think I poked those holes where they need to be. But that's kind of where it's going to mount and how it's going to mount. Being this is aluminum, I'm not going to paint it. And I thought about buffing it up like chrome, but it would stand out like a sore thumb, so I just sanded it with some 500, and I'm going to call it good. I was thinking a bead blast in it to match that, but that kind of matches the timer. I kind of like it. But anyway, it doesn't hit anything in there. So I'm going to mark out the holes, take it all back apart, drill them. We're going to tap through those holes and put some screws in there. And I got to touch up the paint here and here. So it's all wired. Those screw holes line up nice. I tapped them out. They weren't 1/4 they were a lot smaller, but let me get that screwed in. All right, there we go. Pretty much all. It says to turn it past 3. We'll just do 2 minutes. I don't need to do a lot of shaking here. So just see how it does, and when the timer shuts off. But there we go. Correct timer. This is what you would see like the front of the machine. So this part back here would be against the wall, and that's what you'd see. I just have it kind of sitting in there sideways. But we got a nice new paint shaker timer, and it's already counting down a little bit there. Alright, I'll stop it and then restart it before it's... See, it's got just a little... I can't really see that. Looks like the camera picks it up better than my eyes. I can't see where the timer is, but it's less than 30 seconds, I'm guessing. There we be. Original timer. Nice paint shaker there. The paint mixer timer that was on there on the wall here, and you're supposed to be able to turn it back. That turns the fan on. It's kind of, I think the switch needs to be replaced, but anyway, I can run it on a timer now too, along with I'll have to figure that out, because you push it in a little bit and it goes right in. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do, but that will be on hold there. It won't time down when you turn it that way. You can clearly hear it click. There it goes. Oh, you got to turn it past this mark. All right. So there's 2 tall marks there. I don't know if this will show up or not. But see, it doesn't turn back, but you turn it past that one, and then it turns on manually. So if I want to just leave it on for a few hours, I can just turn it on that way. Or if I want it on timed, just turn it that way. There we go. I cleaned what paint and stuff was on it. You can read everything real clearly now. It's much better with all that nasty paint stuff cleaned off. Well, I think I'm going to wrap this video up here. Another thing too, the comments. Sometimes they don't show up for 4 or 5 days, 6 days. And sometimes they show up, go away. Sometimes my reply goes away. They just haven't been working properly. So if you seem like the comments, I read them all and I try and reply to everyone, but they don't always work properly through YouTube. So I do my best with them. But anyway, that is it for this video. If you like it, definitely hit the like button on getting my timer thing on my paint mixer there. And if you like my channel, please hit that 348 engine icon that pops up there. That will subscribe you. And thank you for watching my videos.